All right, here we go. Here we go. Uh, oh, man. Crud. Almost every student I've interviewed this last couple weeks, I've asked this one question to. I said, complete the sentence. Your brain is like a... And I would get answers like, the brain is like a filing cabinet, or the brain is like a computer. It's funny, almost all my students echoed what I used to think, that the brain was this passive organ. It was a filing cabinet. It was a place where you stored information and you took information out. It was passive, as if it really didn't have much to do with the learning process. What if I were to tell you that instead of comparing your brain to a filing cabinet or computer, that a more apt analogy might be that of a bunch of Lego blocks and a bucket? How could that be? Well, here's how it works. Pretend that you and another child have decided you're going to build a spaceship with some Lego blocks. You've decided that your job is to pick up the Lego blocks, put them in a bucket. So you go around the room and you look for all the Lego blocks that you'll need to build a spaceship, and you put them in the bucket. Then you hand the bucket to your friend, and you leave to go get a drink. And while you're gone, your friend takes those pieces, those Lego blocks, and they start to build a spaceship. And when you come back a little while later, the spaceship is built. You gathered up the pieces, put them in a bucket, handed the bucket off to your friend, and your friend built the spaceship. When you learn something using your eyes, your ears, your touch, tactile, all those parts of the brain are making connections and working together. Isn't that fascinating? So, if that's true, then all we have to do to learn something is to learn something new on our guitar is to practice. Every time we practice, we make these new connections, right? Yeah, right. So practice makes perfect, right? No. Practice makes permanent. Perfect practice makes perfect. And that's the point of this little video in this presentation. We want to learn how to practice perfectly. We don't want the wrong information going into our brain. We don't want to practice in a way that puts the wrong stuff up there, because if you practice something long enough, it becomes permanent. Or as my friend Rocky Balboa would say, playminent. He's not really my friend. I just watched all his movies. He's not even really real. Yeah, anyway, I digress. We want to talk about how to practice perfectly. But before we get to that part, we got one more little bit of science we got to explore with this, and then it'll start to make sense. And then you're going to realize how incredibly beautiful your life as a practicing musician is going to be. So, are we clued into the fact that our brain is not passive? It's not just a filing cabinet where we just pull things away and pull things out, and it's much more than that. It's an active, rocking and rolling, moving and grooving organism that continues to work even when we don't. Your brain doesn't stop just because you do. How many of you musicians out there have practiced and been frustrated because you couldn't master something, and you throw your hands up in frustration and you walk away? Come back a couple days later, pick up your instrument, and you just blow through that passage that gave you so much problems before. What happened? You didn't even practice it for those 2 days. Guess what? Your brain was working to solve the problems of that passage. It continued to work even when you stopped. When we learn a new skill, our initial exposure to it creates some synaptic connections in our brain, and that gets the ball rolling. And then when you walk away, take a nap, when you rest, you read a book, you just walk away from the problem, your brain continues to work. And even while you're sleeping, it continues to work. It continues to wire up all the parts of the brain that are involved with whatever it is you're learning. And the next time you approach this task, it's like a magic little thing happens. I kid you not, it's like magic. You can do stuff that you never could before. We are ready now to get to the fun stuff. How to practice the guitar. How to practice perfectly so the right information gets into our brain. How to use brain-based learning to reduce the time we have to practice. I'm a professional musician. I'm busy. I'm teaching about 3 or 4 academies. I'm gigging with 2 different groups off and on. I do some studio stuff. I'm composing music. I just composed some music for a play. I mean, there is a million things going on in my life. I don't have the time to practice 4 hours a day anymore. But guess what? I got 10 minutes. And several times during the day, I have 10 minutes. And 10 minutes of concentrated practicing has changed my life. All right, here we are. Brain-based guitar, the final slide. I've always wanted to play a bluegrass flat top guitar solo. I've never been fast enough, never been clean enough. I've never been able to master it before, and I've thrown my hands up in the air and walked away over the years just figuring, well, I guess I'll just never be able to pull that off. It's not in the cards for me. I'm not built that way. And then I discovered this course and this whole brain-based thing. And just to summarize what we've been talking about, our brain is amazing. It's not passive. It's not a filing cabinet. It's a living, breathing, rocking and rolling, moving and grooving part of us. And every time we learn something new, it creates connections. And it connects all the different parts of the brain that are necessary to master a skill. And the cool thing is, when we stop learning, it doesn't. It keeps going. So how do we take advantage of that? How do we take advantage of that and what we know about the brain, like long extended periods of concentration aren't nearly as effective as short bursts followed by a settling in time? How do we take advantage of that? How do we put that together and have a brain-based approach to playing music, to learning new music? It's cool. It's easy. Short bursts, focused effort, time off. And to test this theory, at the beginning of this course, I started out to learn this bluegrass solo I was talking about. It's called Blackberry Blossom. And I wanted to do just what we talked about. And so I would take 2 bars, 2 measures of this piece, and I would spend 5 minutes working on those 2 bars. Then I'd spend the next 5 minutes and work on the next 2 bars of the song. And all I would do, I'm going to hold this up here where you can see it. All I would do is, see, here we are. Let me move over here. There we go. All I would do is I would take the first 2 bars and I just repeat it over and over again. And I did that for 5 minutes. It takes about 7 or 8 seconds to do that. So you figure in a minute, you probably get 8 or 9 repetitions of that in. So for 5 minutes, you just did that 40 times. The next thing I would do is next 5 minutes, I'd practice the next 2 bars. And so on and so forth. By the end of 7 days, I had learned and memorized the entire A section of that song. And here's the important part. I played it slowly, deliberately. I never once tried to play it up to speed or up to tempo. I continued to do the whole thing. So by the end of 7 days, I was going. And then I went on vacation. Now, I spent 15 minutes a day doing that, adding on the new bars to the old bars. So by the end of the 7 days, I was really playing that whole thing through 10, 11, 12, 15, 20 times in that 15-minute period, playing it slowly and deliberately. I didn't try to play it up to speed, like I said. I just left it. I walked away, and I was gone for 4 days on vacation, didn't touch my guitar. And I came back on a Tuesday, went to my first academy that I teach at, and I had a few minutes before the beginning of class. So I just picked up my guitar, and without even thinking about it, Now, it's still not as fast as it's called for, but it's a truckload faster than I used to be able to play it. And I was stunned, but that's not the part that stunned me. I kind of expected that would be the case. What stunned me was what happened with my right hand. Now, I'm going to move this down a little bit so you can see it better. When I play the acoustic guitar, when I practice acoustic guitar or play it, for years, I've always taken these fingers and I've kind of just rested them on the top of the guitar, because the theory was I didn't want my hand flailing all over the place. I just did that. So, and that's how I practice this. Right? And then when I picked up the guitar after 4 days off, after having practiced it the way I just showed you, I picked up my guitar without even thinking, and I just went. See the difference? My hand was not attached to this. It was not a conscious decision on my part. I just picked up my guitar and just did it. Now, the only explanation I have is that my brain solved the problem. What was the problem? I couldn't play it fast. I didn't know the answer to it. I didn't know the answer to that problem. My brain figured it out. My right hand was anchored to the top of my guitar. Now I am practicing that way. My technique has changed, and I have found a secret to playing faster, and I've broken through that barrier. I'm looking forward to the day when I can play that song full out as fast as it can go, and that's not that far away in the future. So, short amounts of practice, focused, time off. Let your brain do its job. See, when I was practicing, I was the kid putting the Lego blocks in the bucket. I was me putting the parts and pieces into that bucket of this song that my brain needed. Because when I took time off, my brain built the spaceship. My brain solved the problem. My brain put those pieces together so that instead of a musical exercise, it's starting to sound like a piece of music. Isn't that amazing? Brain-based learning. Who'd have thunk it? Well, I'm going to check out now because I've got to go practice. I've got to tell you, I've been playing guitar for over 42 years. I have not been as excited about playing guitar as I am right now. I feel like I'm 16 again. So, I'm going to check out. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. This class has been an incredible blessing to me. God bless you. Have a great day. Bye-bye. All right. I had to add a little postscript. I was teaching today, and I got to thinking about this video I've made. And I think I need to answer the question, is really what I learned that if I practice slowly and deliberately, I get things done? No. I kind of knew that. I've been a musician 40 years. But what I did learn was that I have been very inefficient in the way I've approached practicing and playing and learning on my instruments, guitar and electric bass. And what I also learned is that I have a partner in the learning process. It's my brain. And if I give my brain the pieces that it needs, it will solve any puzzle that I put in front of it. And the beautiful thing about it is, when I get tired and I go rest, my brain goes to work, keeps on working, keeps on chugging away. I have a partner. I've got to learn to trust my brain. And what's really cool about all this is that it really removes stress from me. Because I can't tell you how many countless hours I practiced on something and walked away from a practice session totally, completely frustrated because I couldn't master this thing, whatever it was I was trying to learn. It's because I didn't realize that I wasn't done learning it yet. And that part of the learning process has to be, I need to walk away. I put the pieces in the bucket. My brain takes the pieces out of the bucket, crafts and molds them, and builds me a spaceship. That's what I've learned. It's made practicing much more pleasurable. I take away the stress of having to be phenomenally fast and phenomenally quick immediately. Let my brain do some work. It's my partner. I love this thing. I love what I've learned. I really wish I knew about this 20 years ago, 30. I wish somebody sat me down and said, look, practice slow. Focus. Practice short amount of time. And then go out and play. Go take a nap. Go read a book. Brain-based learning. I'm digging it. This is Mr. G out. I'll see you in class. Bye-bye.